How is it going, everybody? Sean Ross here, and welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you guys are ready because it is time to talk about the latest chapter of MHA, chapter 201, which was entitled Foresight. And with this chapter, we have reached the conclusion of the second match, to where we come to find out that Momo and Class A have been defeated by Kendo and Class B, and this now brings the overall standings to where Class A and Class B both have a win apiece, and now we are down to our final three matches. But let's not focus in on the other three matches just yet. We will have time to talk about the third match with next chapter. Let's focus in and talk about the conclusion of this second match, because talking with a lot of you guys down in the comments and also over on Twitter, a majority of us were kind of expecting, including myself, Class B to come out on top in some way, shape, or form with this second match against Class A. And when you go from the start of this match now to its conclusion, you can just see that Class B had the advantage for a majority of this match, and Kendo, being the leader of Class B, was doing a phenomenal job. She was utilizing all members of her team and their quirks splendidly, and she was keeping Class A on their toes the entire time. And when you look over to Class A, there were really only two members that stood out: Momo and Tokoyami. Aoyama and Toru were kind of dead weight for Class A, and they didn't really contribute all that much, and this is what kind of led to the 4-0 victory for Class B. But when you hear all of that, it kind of sounds like a blowout, but with the content within this latest chapter, it was coming down to the wire, and there is a specific moment near the ending of this chapter to where it could have gone either way, to where Class A could have come out on top and won this match with a 4-1 victory. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive in and let's discuss chapter 201, the conclusion of this second match. And let's go all the way back to the beginning, because we were coming off of the cliffhanger from chapter 200 with Momo starting to create something. We did not know what, but there were infinite possibilities as to what Momo could be creating as she is blocking the constant bombardment from Kendo's gigantic fists. And as we open up to the very first page of this chapter, it really should come as no surprise. Momo is using her trump card, her ace in the hole. She creates a gigantic ass cannon and points it at point blank range at Kendo's face. And I know some people were a bit disappointed just getting to see Momo create another cannon, a very well-drawn cannon, might I add, but you kind of had to ask yourself the question, what is the plan of Momo creating this cannon? She's not going to use it on Kendo at point blank range, is she? And as we come to find out, she is not planning to use this on Kendo. She is actually using this to get her plan in motion and to give her team a fighting chance against Class B. Because within this situation, in close hand-to-hand combat against Kendo, Momo knows she does not stand a chance, and just with her quirk alone, this is not the ideal situation for her to go up against Kendo. She is not built for hand-to-hand combat, so she can either go up against Kendo in hand-to-hand combat and lose, or she can sacrifice herself in order to help out her team in the long run. And that is what she ends up doing, and I like getting to see that from Momo's character. I know some people might be disappointed getting to see Momo getting knocked out by Kendo, but this just goes to show the type of foresight that she had for this match, to where she was looking ahead to see what her team can do once she is taken out. Plus, you also have to factor in the loss of stamina and energy that Momo is going to be experiencing after creating all of these items. Not only did she create the gigantic cannon, but she also created the bag within that cannon, and then the items within that bag within that cannon. And then moments before, creating all of those shields to block all of Kendo's attacks. This is going to make her pretty fatigued, which is an aspect of her quirk, the drawback that we rarely get to see. This kind of brings me back to the fillery episode during the provisional license exam in season 3, where we really got to see that firsthand with Momo going up against the girl with the IQ quirk. So getting to see Momo factoring in all of these risks and knowing that she's not going to be able to beat Kendo, she ends up putting the betterment of her team above herself. And I think that just really goes to show the development and the foresight that she has gained over the course of the series. And I like getting to see that from her character. So we see Momo being able to get the shot off from the cannon. We see the bag go over the gigantic onomatopoeia wall, and Kendo is able to get a punch in on Momo. She's about to fall unconscious from all that energy being used and from that punch, but she still has one more move up her sleeve where she is going to be taking away Kendo's mobility. As we find out with the ending of this chapter, she ends up creating a whole bunch of ropes and netting, connecting herself to Kendo, and now Kendo is going to have a very hard time to move around because not only will she have to drag around an unconscious Momo, but Momo is still connected to the cannon. So even though Momo lost the one-on-one match against Kendo, she did also kind of technically win because Kendo won the match physically, but Momo technically won the match mentally. And I think this all can tie back to Kendo's last piece of dialogue at the ending of the chapter where she states, with everything she created, she had such amazing foresight. So this doesn't really feel like I beat her. So even with Momo's quote-unquote dying breath, she was able to slow down Kendo just long enough to allow Tokoyami and the rest of the team to gather up the items and to move forward with her game plan. And I do honestly think that if things went according to plan, Class A could have come out on top because Kendo had a lot of baggage to deal with to walk around the gigantic wall carrying Momo the entire time. So cutting away from those two, we end up going back to Tokoyami and the rest of Class A, and we really come to find out that they really aren't doing well because Kurohiro, who was hiding within that mushroom, ends up popping out and he steals away Aoyama. And this is where I think it's a good point to state that Aoyama really didn't do all that much throughout this match. The only thing that he really did was his naval laser buffet to hinder Kurohiro at the beginning of this match, but besides that, he basically did nothing. He was kind of dead weight, and thus he gets captured by Kurohiro. We see Tokoyami get shot out of the sky, ends up running into Toru, who's covered in mushrooms, and Class A is in a little bit of a predicament because the entire environment is covered by the mushrooms, and they don't know how to locate Hinoko, Kurohiro, and Manga. So they are currently in a tight spot, but then they hear a boom from the other side of the wall. They see the bag come flying over, and thus Tokoyami and Toru, with the assistance of Dark Shadow, fly up. They grab Yaoyorozu's lucky bag, and this is where the tides of the battle begin to shift within Class A's favor. But even though it does not last very long. So as Class A is gathering up their items, we have this very brief scene of Kurohiro talking with Kinoko, and it kind of makes me wonder if our little edgelord of Class B has a crush on our mushroom girl, because when he was talking at the start of this match, he was not nervous or stuttering over his words. He was talking very loud, but here he's talking very softly. He's stuttering a bit. He seems rather nervous, so I think he might have a crush on Kinoko. We don't really get to dive any more into that because Kurohiro immediately notices that Tokoyami is zooming towards their location, and he's wondering how that could be. And this is where we learn about the items within Yaoyorozu's lucky bag, to where Tokoyami is wearing thermal goggles, and Toru was able to get rid of all the mushrooms thanks to an anti-fungal spray. And I love the dialogue here by Tokoyami where he states, "Gaze long into the abyss, and the abyss gazes back." That line right there is up there with Revelry in the Dark. So he is zooming in on Kurohiro and Kinoko, but then we also have Toru removing her gloves and her boots and creeping right behind Manga, to where she states that she noticed that none of the Class B members were being affected by Kinoko's mushrooms, so they must have coated their bodies in an antifungal cream to not get attacked by the mushrooms as well, which is a very nice insight by Toru. But then we have some epic shots of Tokoyami in this awesome pose, saying, as Hawks would say, speed beats power, and leads into another move called Abyssal Black Body Sabbath, which I honestly think would sound better if it was called Black Abyssal Sabbath, just to tie in a little bit more with the band Black Sabbath. But it's still really cool, but it leads into my badass moment of this episode, and the moment that could have been the turning point of Class A winning this match, to where he threw his cape onto Kurohiro and crunched him into a tiny ball, and we had Dark Shadow contain Kinoko. This right here If he knocked out Kinoko within this moment, Class A could have won this match. He could have brought Kinoko and Kurohiro to their prison and then could have helped Toru with manga, and then Kendo would have been very easy being connected to Momo. But here's the thing. He treated this like a training exercise. He did not treat this like the real deal. And this is when Kinoko ends up using her trump card, her ace in the hole, to where she was able to use split gill shrooms to attack Tokoyami's lungs. And this is actually a real mushroom that has a sort of same effect. It's very rare to happen, but the fact that he actually has mushrooms growing in his windpipe, suffocating him from the inside out, this just goes to show how powerful Kinoko actually is. And this actually impressed me even more. The fact that she can even do this with her power makes her very dangerous on the field of battle. Tokoyami came this close to winning the match for Class A, but it just was not in the cards. So Tokoyami is incapacitated. He cannot breathe. We see that Toru is attacking manga, but then quickly gets subdued by Kendo, reaching out with her gigantic hand, and attached to Kendo is an unconscious Momo. So with all the other members of Class A unable to fight back, Class B ends up winning this match. And we have Tetsu cheering on the sidelines, Todoroki hoping that this does not discourage Momo in any way. And then we also come to see Midnight just shuddering with excitement of the springtime of youth, or in this case, the wintertime of youth, as what she's seeing being displayed. So yeah, that brings us to the ending of this second match of 4-0 blowout victory for Class B. Though it wasn't an easy blowout match, because as I just stated, that moment right there with Tokoyami could have decided this match and could have moved it into the favor of Class A, but it all depends if you treat this like a training match or if you actually treat it seriously when you do not know the fullest extent of your enemy's powers. Tokoyami did not do that, and Kinoko was able to take advantage of that situation. So yeah, that is the ending of the second match. I am really looking forward to seeing what the review is going to be like, how Aizawa is going to talk with Momo in the squad, how Vlad is going to praise Class B for finally getting a win. And then we're moving on to the third match with Tetsu's team going up against Todoroki's team. And I am very much looking forward to that match. I want to see shine on Shoji and Ojiro. But on Class B side, I just want to see their quirks. We already seen Tetsu's. I know Juzo is on that team with his quirk of softening, the Eren Yeager Titan-looking guy. And then we also have Sen, who has the quirk of Gyrate, I believe. And then the one I'm looking forward to the most, Pony with her quirk of Horn Cannon. What does it do? Why does it have that name? I am so curious, so I cannot wait for the third match. But yeah, this right here is my review on Chapter 201. And I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on this latest chapter. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below about your positives, your negatives, what you thought about this, and what you thought I had to say about this match, and whether you were satisfied or disappointed with the outcome of this second match. And if you guys want to talk more about My Hero Academia outside of the channel, feel free to follow me on Twitter. A link to my Twitter account can be found in the description down below. But that's going to do it for me here, guys. So until next week, when we have Chapter 202 of My Hero Academia and the start of the third match, I'll talk to you guys next time. But remember, go beyond, plus ultra.